Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave her mother 40 whacks. When she saw what she had done, gave her father 41.
And we're live.
With Paranormal-Spirits, place to come to get our booze on. We talk about the booze, the things that go bump in the night. And I get to do that with all my booze. I'm Mike Black. To my left, my beautiful, talented, and delicious wife, Alyssa.
Hello.
Sitting across from me in the colorful ghost shirt, the amazing, talented, lovely John Burkett.
Hello.
No. He's just so flat. What the hell? I'm going to shoot you up with some coffee or something.
Nah.
All righty.
Upsets the dum-tum. Makes it rum-rum.
Okay, so tonight, Alyssa is bringing you the story tonight, and this is a classic whodunit from way back in 1893, 92? 92.
93. Mm-hmm.
92. And we're going to talk about the famous case of Lizzie Borden. We're going to talk about the time before the murders, the actual murders themselves, leading up into the trial. And the inquest, is it the inquest is what they called it right before the trial? Yeah. And after we're all done, we'll let you make your decision. And you can tell us whether Lizzie did it or not. So, tonight, I am drinking Arbeg 10. What are you drinking, Alyssa?
What do you think?
Wee Beastie.
I went back. I did.
She loves her Arbeg Wee Beastie. John?
Lefroy 10.
Heck yeah.
So it's all Isla all the way around.
Everybody doing scotch tonight. I like this.
I like
Okay.
me some scotch.
So we have a very, very
So why aren't there art bottles on the table, Mike?
big, well, we have a very, very,
What's this?
very special guest in the room with us tonight.
Me.
No.
Oh, dang.
And this particular guest that we have in the room tonight is going to be given away by 3B Paranormal if you're watching on YouTube. And we're going to give this away to one of our listeners and watchers. We haven't decided all the rules or when exactly it's going to happen, but this has been selected, and this is what's going to be given away. And it is...
Look at that fancy.
I've never seen one of
bottle.
those
Fancy
in real life.
bottle with a horse on top, and if you can't read that, that is a bottle of Blanton's. So this is going to be given away to whoever wins on the giveaway.
Am I eligible?
Absolutely not. You are not eligible. No.
I've never tried Blanton's before.
This is a unicorn. This is a very difficult to acquire unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
And it's and we love the people who listen to us. So as a gesture of that love, one of those listeners is going to get this now.
21 and older on there.
21 and older, of course. And proof of age will be required,
Age
obviously.
verification.
But we haven't figured out all the rules yet and what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. But this is the bottle set aside for that special occasion. So, I wish I could enter.
Right?
Me
because
too.
these are really hard to come by. All right.
This is Buffalo Trace, by the way. Mash bill number 2, the high rye.
The high rye, yeah. So, I mean, everybody, if they're listening to this show and they listen because we talk about booze, then
If it
know what it is.
anybody who's into bourbon knows Blanton's. Knows
yeah,
that's
for
hard.
sure.
That's hard. This is the first bottle I've ever seen in real life.
I like the little derby guy on the top.
And they have different derbies. A lot of people, rich people who could afford and find these and have the connections.
Right.
Will collect the different tops because some of there's different ones.
Hey, I'm not rich, but I do know people who know people, so
You got connections.
I have connections.
You got to have connections.
You got to have connections to get them. That's the only way you get them. All right, so that's what we're giving away, and more to come on that, and we'll be talking about that over the next couple of shows. and let you guys know how that you can enter to win the big old bottle of Blanton's.
Well, it's normal size.
I know that, but I mean,
It's
it just sounds big old,
750 milliliter normal size.
big old bottle of Blanton's. The alliterate. I was throwing that alliteration
Bob.
in there. Yeah. Did you notice that alliteration? Okay. So,
Sure. Was it a onomatopoeia or a...
No, it was alliteration. So, hey, you ready?
I am.
Tell us about Lizzie.
I bet some people know about Lizzie.
I bet some people do know about Lizzie. Everybody knows about Lizzie. Tell us about her.
Everybody knows the doggerel that you probably heard at the beginning of the podcast.
I've never heard of doggerel.
Have you never heard of the term doggerel?
I have not heard of the
John,
term.
have you heard of the term doggerel?
Is that like a special egg roll from the Chinese with special protein inside?
I thought it was a nursery rhyme or one of those rhymes
It
that
is
they sing while you
considered.
jump rope or something,
Yeah.
you know.
A doggerel is considered a lyric without literary value and treated trivially.
And shout out to Adlin Black, our daughter, who to doing the recording for that. So
Yes, for the doggerel, which is Lizzie Borden took an axe and gave her mother
40
40?
whacks,
when she saw what she had done.
gave her father 41.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's like London Bridges falling down.
Falling down. Yep.
Yes.
Except a little bit more gruesome.
More interesting. I mean, if you're under the bridge when it falls down, it could be pretty gruesome.
That's true. That's true. So I got this information. There was an author by the name of Sarah Miller. She wrote The Borden Murders, Lizzie Borden and the Trial of the Century. It was actually considered a children's book for like young adults. That's how
Yeah.
it was marketed.
It's tween
like-
fiction. It's like Twilight of its.
It was her only. It's her.
Right up there with the Necronomicon, you know.
She's written a couple of things. Somebody I think about the Romanovs, and she's written about one other person that I know of. But this is her first nonfiction.
Yeah, because the Romanov one is a very happy ending.
Yeah. She's got a lot of historical type
Entire
stories.
Families murdered.
A lot of this was also obtained from a book called Parallel Lives. It was written by Fall River Historical Society about these murders, and the authors are Dennis Bennett and Martins Michael. So,
Fall Rivers is where it happened.
Fall
correct?
River, Massachusetts is where Lizzie lived and these occurred. I'm going to give you a quick history of Fall River, Massachusetts and the Bordens. It was first inhabited by the Wampanoag Indians. The Corcashon River that flows through the town, there were mills that were established because it goes underneath a main bridge. And I think they said underneath the town now. It was established, these mills were established by Colonel Benjamin Church, who later sold these mills to the Borden family, not Lizzie's necessarily. This was,
The milk people. Elsie's family.
I'm not sure if it's Elsie's family either, but this was, I believe, in the 1700s. This sale gave the Borden family ownership of water privileges along the river. This was like in the late 1700s. This gave the Borden family great power and wealth because these textile mills and then cotton textile production after the War of 1812.
So control of the water back then would have been huge because of the because farmers needed the water. Were they able to travel that river with like steamboats or anything?
I
Or
don't
other
really
boats?
know. I would assume so just because of the amount of mills they were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't really know cotton was huge, like the production of cotton.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of free labor in the South that they used to pick that cotton.
Yeah, we're
That's
talking
what I'm
about
saying. It came
Massachusetts
here,
though.
but this is Massachusetts. So I'm assuming they took their cotton from the South and then
Yeah.
did it in
Brought
the
it to
mills
textile
up there.
mills. Yeah.
Textile mills up north is more industry up north and agriculture.
Yes. So there have been Bordens in this area for over 200 years.
Wow.
The Borden and Durfee family were the main families in Fall River, and there were 125 individual Borden families in the directory in 1892. And they came from 7 main veins of the Borden family.
Wow.
Vein.
So that plays into some things later. Good Lord.
Thank you, John.
You said
Thank you
main
for taking it to that place.
How old are
I was
you?
wondering how far we were going to get into the show before John alluded to something.
You should have
I'm
known
through the
if
first
sexual.
you
paragraph.
put the word main vein,
Jesus.
that, yeah.
Jesus Christ. Bless him.
You know, the thing is, that is so adolescent of you. And it is so adolescent of me because I thought it was funny.
Some things are always funny, you know, like
They are.
farts and
Yeah, farts are funny.
dick jokes. And
So that's the history of Lizzie's Borden family. Andrew is her father, Andrew Jackson Borden. He was married in 1845 to Sarah Morse Borden, who is Lizzie's mother. In 1851, her older sister Emma was born. There was another daughter in between. There was another daughter that was born that there's two reports, one that she died in infancy and one that she died as a teenager. I've heard both. And then Lizzie. Lizzie was born in 1860, middle Civil War.
no.
Right before it.
Hadn't started yet. Yeah,
Right
just
before it.
that.
The mother, Sarah Borden, died in 1863 when Lizzie was around 3 from uterine congestion.
What?
Yes, which they were thinking that might be a miscarriage.
What is your
Might be a name for a miscarriage. When Emma was 12, Lizzie was 3, and it was said that Emma promised her mother she would take care of baby Lizzie. I say that because they kind of stick together through the whole process of this. Andrew then remarried Abby Durfee Gray Borden within 2 years in 1865. That is the Civil War.
Well, it ended in 1865.
So they said that they got married during it. She was 37 years old and had no children.
April 65, I think.
Is that what it was? So when they got together, she didn't have any children. He had these 2 girls. And the family moved to 92 2nd Street in Fall River in the early 1870s. The population of Fall River at this time was 85,000 people.
Jeez.
So it wasn't small. Like
Back then, that's
big
big.
old town.
I mean, I've always thought about this story as like this old, 1860 tiny town and, all these. No, 85.
Sometimes they were sprawling,
Yeah, 85,000 in 1892.
I figured that's how many people live there now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't know how many people live there now. There was a large span of wealth and poverty in this town. It was very disparate, the differences. And so the Borden family was among the upper middle class, as Andrew Borden was a carpenter and a furniture builder and had built wealth over time. He was a lot of things actually. He was an undertaker and also made furniture for these funerals. So an undertaker at that time was not considered necessarily a mortician. It was somebody that helped take care of the body as they moved it from, say, the funeral homes to the houses, but they didn't embalm it or put it in a casket per se.
You said to the houses.
They had funerals in the house.
Yeah.
That's what they did.
That was the classic way of doing it.
Yes.
For those who are not aware.
Oh, yes.
That you come home. My dad came home after he left the funeral home. And
Really?
Yeah. And we had the wake and everything at the house. And then we left from the house. He stayed at the house 1 day or 2 days. And then we took him to the cemetery after that.
Yeah, I didn't know people still.
We still do that.
Times,
yeah.
still, oh, the Irish do that. The
Irish.
wake.
Aye.
By the way, only 94,000 people live in Fall River now, so it does.
Oh, so it's about
the
the
same.
Probably
yeah.
because of what happened. So they did say that he owned a funeral home, and this is a myth, but that he would use shorter caskets to bury people because he was so cheap, and that in order to get them to fit, he would sometimes saw their feet off of the deceased so that they'd fit.
I read the same thing, believe it or not.
This is technically a myth, but that nobody could prove it. But that is a myth. I had to put that in there because I was like, if he's that frugal that he's cutting feet off so that they'll fit in these caskets that he's made,
Scrooge, man.
Short caskets to use less wood.
It'd be a lot easier just to break the leg at the kneecap and bend it back.
Yes.
That's true.
Well, maybe he wasn't stout. Maybe he needed to use a hacksaw or something. I don't know.
He was also the director of several
Maybe used a
textile mills. And he also owned commercial property. He was the president of a bank and director of a safe deposit and trust company. He had his hands in a lot of pots, hence the reason why he was wealthy. But he earned it. He wasn't like some of these Bordens that it was familial wealth. The family moved to 92 2nd Street, but in that area, it was really below their means. They could have afforded a more affluent area. Not that when you see this house, it's not ramshackle by any means. It's
Right.
quite a large house. They did say that it was considered to be somewhat affluent, but it wasn't the Hill, which is
Yeah.
where all the affluent folks.
Yeah, that's what I read, that everybody in town that was of money, they lived up on the hill. And he lived downtown, and I don't
He
want to walk through your
lived-
story.
So he said it was in town, and he was said to have purchased this home due to it being within walking distance of his
Right,
businesses. So he
right.
would make his rounds in the morning after breakfast, and then he would come back and have lunch. So he would kind of stop in at all of them. The house had 5 bedrooms, large windows, and 2 main stories, a basement, and a 3rd floor attic, which is where the maid quarters were.
Right. A little tiny room or something.
No toilets, no running water, no electricity.
He got this much money, and they got to use the outhouse.
No, they actually have privies.
The
There's
chamber
a
pots?
privy downs. No, they all had chamber pots and slot basins, which was considered like bath water. Like if you were to brush your teeth, wash your hands, that's a slot basin. And then you had a chamber pot.
So you have black water and gray water.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
There's a privy downstairs, which is where you go to the basement and dump this. And there's also a privy outside.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but at this time, there was electricity available.
Yeah.
Andrew Borden did get running water when it was available. And he tore up the floors on the 1st floor to put in the running water.
Right.
And eventually, but no toilets were ever reported. It has toilets now, but it didn't.
Right.
Supposedly, the girls, Emma and Lizzie, did not want him to tear up the floors to add this running water. That was the rumor. He did put running water on the 1st floor, not on the top floor. There was electricity in the town. Some of it was electrified. However, having no electricity was normal at this time.
I bet they had it on the hill.
They did have it on the hill.
I was going to say, I bet you.
He was trepidatious about gas lamps because there's a live flame in
Yeah,
gas
it's fire
that's
hazard.
connected to the city lines, but that's what the affluent ones on the hill had. But
I'm
they
sure
had
they did.
kerosene lamps, which is what had been the typical. So it was a little scary at that time to think about either live gas lamps or even electricity that you're turning on.
And you know where I bet the sewer lines from the hill ran? Downhill.
I'm sure they did.
To
The-
the other neighborhoods.
Still, I can't remember the dates. I apologize, but I don't remember the dates. But I know that people were still kind of leery of electricity when it became a more common. Mm-hmm. Because it started with Christmas lights, and there were a few people that got electrocuted, and that's how they marketed lights and got everybody to wanting lights, was electric
That's
lights.
because Edison invented the light bulb.
Well, who's he going to sell it to? How's he going to sell it? He sells it by putting pretty Christmas lights on Christmas trees, and then people wanted
I
it
would
in their
rather-
house.
yeah,
That's
I'd-
how it goes.
Wow, I would rather you sell it as, look how you don't have to have an open flame in your home to see anymore.
That's not the way it started, though. It
night.
started with Christmas lights. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
In order to make it cozier, he did knock down some walls. And I say all of this, Andrew was known to be frugal, some would say cheap, kind of miserly in business, but he was described as a very fair man. He was more miserly in the business relationships than he was in his family relationships, as evidenced by he paid for carpet in Emma's bedroom, which was an extra. That wasn't a thing. Like, he didn't have carpet.
You had
And
rugs,
actually,
yeah.
if you look at the pictures of this house,
It's
I
the same
realize
carpet.
that the carpet may not be the same, but lordy be, it's hideous with this
Is it really bad?
floral wallpaper, and then floral carpet, and then floral bedspreads. And it's probably not far off from what it was.
Looked
'cause
like Laura
floral-
Ashley threw up in there.
Essentially, yes. It's like this little house on a prairie. It was. So he also paid for like extra lessons for Emma. I don't know what kind of lessons, but they required special books. He paid for Lizzie to go on a 19-week Europe vacation for her 30th birthday.
19 weeks.
19 weeks. So, well, you have to think about how long it took him to get there.
Oh, that's true.
And then
For her 30th birthday?
for her 30th birthday. So a lot
And
of
she's
people.
still living at home?
Here's the thing. So a lot of people,
Well, I mean-
thought that Lizzie was young when this happened, right? Because
Yeah, I
in
did too.
today's world, you're like 18 and then you're booted, right? Not here. No, because her sister ever got married. And in that time, it was improper for a female to live outside of their parents' home if they were not married.
So she was a spinster.
Yes, that is the not nice term for that. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Did I offend someone by calling her a spinster?
No. So she did tour Europe when she was 30. There's scrapbooks from that trip that they still have at the Historical Society.
Wow, that'd be cool.
And it has postcards in the book from where she traveled. And then she would use quote from Shakespeare around the pictures to describe where she had gone. Italy, London, Paris, I believe is maybe one place that she went. A lot of different places.
19 weeks.
19 weeks. But you have to think about how long it took him to go by ship.
It only takes a couple weeks by that time. We're doing sailing ships by 1890. You get the steamships.
Would have been steamships, yeah.
Yeah. And so a couple weeks across the Atlantic to get from our East Coast to
17 days.
To England. Yeah. So
17 days.
A little over 2 weeks. Yeah. So...
Yeah,
I only know that because I've looked it up recently.
So that still gives you 15 weeks.
Yeah, it does.
Because you get on train, once you except for the channel. But yeah.
So, a little bit of background on Lizzie. She was a little different. She was known to be a moody child by teachers and peers. In all of her pictures, she stares into the camera. There's some that you see that she's staring to the side, but she doesn't have that demure side gaze that was expected from women. She didn't have any of that. She was just like flat stare. And there's a classic picture of her, and she is staring directly into the camera.
She has RBF.
She does.
Did you see my demure look?
I don't know if that's demure. That's haughty.
She was known.
My
honestly,
come hither look.
The more I read about her, the more I think that.
Demure.
Not that I'm trying to like diagnose everybody, but she seems to be on the spectrum, if you were to say. She was known to be awkward when speaking with others, and she would come off as harsh or brash. She did not have to work, and she did not work. She made too much money. At that time, most women were teachers. They had too much money for her to be a teacher, because you had to, apparently the wealthy you didn't do that.
And there was one, and it might have been one of our podcasts, but about where single women were teachers, but once you got married, you couldn't be a teacher.
No, because that was my aunt. She was a teacher, and then once she got married, she was born in 1901. And once she got married, she couldn't be a teacher anymore. But she couldn't be a teacher because she had too much money. So apparently, yeah, well, she did. I mean, that was part of her. She had money. Yeah.
Couldn't show their ankles either.
They could not know.
That's too sexy.
There was no evidence that her nor her sister Emma, who was known to be shy and reclusive, had ever had any love interests and were never married.
Not dressed like that. I can imagine why.
They all dress like that.
It's a Victorian age. Of course she's dressed like that.
She belonged to many groups through her church, to include the Christian Endeavor Society, Women Christian Temperance Union, and the Fruit and Flower Mission. And she taught Sunday school. And some reports state that she taught Sunday school to Chinese immigrant kids, but they don't know if she taught English to them or if she taught Christianity.
How are you going to teach it if they only speak Mandarin?
Well,
don't you think maybe they might have had a translator?
Maybe. She might have. Those kids might have just been sitting there like staring blankly at this crazy lady.
So that's some background on her. I'm going to bring you now to around the late July of 1892. So Abby, Andrew married.
Abby is
the stepmother.
Okay.
And then you have Andrew, the father. Mm-hmm. Emma is the older sister. And then you have Abby. Lizzie. Lizzie is about 30 years old at this time, 32 actually. And so Emma would have been 44. They're 9 years apart, so 41.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she ain't never getting married.
No, they never did. And then there's a maid, Bridget, that they call Maggie.
Why do they call her Maggie?
The rumor is because they had a previous maid named Maggie, and then they got Bridget, who is an Irish immigrant.
Sullivan.
Bridget Sullivan. And the rumor is that they didn't want to learn her name, so they just called her Maggie because that's what the previous one was named.
What's your dog's name? Fred. Why is it named Fred? Because our last 3 dogs' names were Fred.
That's the rumor.
Jesus.
But then there's some that just say that that's her name. Her name is, we call her Maggie. So
it's interchangeable with
Bridget.
Maid, or
We just
mean-
come up with an Irishy sounding first name and call her that. Maggie. It's Molly. Whatever.
Yeah.
So that's who's living in the home. There was a family argument that was said to have occurred in July of 1892, and tensions were running high. So both girls took extended vacations to New Bedford, and I don't know how far New Bedford is from
Connecticut.
Fall River, but
Probably not that far.
but they returned 1 week prior to the murders, and Lizzie reportedly stayed in a local rooming house for 4 days before returning to the Borden house.
She really didn't want to come home, did she?
No, so there's 3 days then that she's at the home before the murders. So that brings us to the night of August 2nd, 1892, into the morning and the day of August 3rd of 1892. So starting the night of August 2nd, the family becomes ill with supposed food poisoning. Now, there's reports that Emma nor Lizzie were sick, but then there's other reports that the whole family was sick. But by the time of the 4th, the only people still vomiting and that are sick from it are Bridget, or Maggie the maid. We're going to call her Bridget. Her name is Bridget.
Okay, Bridget.
Bridget the maid has been known to puke that morning. Abby and Andrew, not Lizzie. And not Emma. Not Emma. Emma was actually not in the home during the murders. But so food poisoning 2 days before the murder. Everyone except Lizzie and Emma got violently ill, that's the report, and thought that they may have been poisoned. The doctor told them they had eaten tainted fish. They thought somebody had poisoned their bread.
Well, they don't have any electricity, so what kind of...
They have ice boxes.
What kind of fridge they have? Okay.
They do have ice boxes, and
Okay.
the ice did run every morning.
Okay.
And they had enough money to have the
Yeah,
ice
I
box.
know.
They also did their grocery shopping daily. Whatever they wanted for dinner, they shopped for daily.
Okay, so it didn't sit there and spoil.
Correct. They had eaten swordfish, and the doctor said, you just ate some tainted fish.
Mercury poison.
There is a legend of tainted mutton. So there was this whole thing about how the whole family ate tainted mutton that had been sitting on the stove for a week that was used for different things.
Oh, wait. After sitting on the stove for
That's...
the next day, you shouldn't be eating.
But during the inquest, Bridget confirmed that it was not served until the mutton was not served until lunch the day after they were sick on the 2nd. So it didn't even get served until lunch on the 3rd, and they started getting sick on the 2nd. So it had nothing to do with the mutton. And that comes from there's a movie. There's a couple of movies, but there was a movie made in like 1872 with the lady from Bewitched,
there was
Elizabeth
a movie
Montgomery.
made in 1872.
1972, sorry.
Elizabeth Montgomery. I saw
Bewitched.
that one.
Yeah.
I
So
saw that when I was a
apparently there's this like scene where she picks up this terrain, like the terrine, whatever they call it, when they put, a casserole in, and she opens up and there's flies and there's this like rotting mutton.
Gross.
And Andrew says, "Eat not, want not." And he like makes her like eat it.
We're not going to waste this.
Yes, because
okay.
he's that miserly dude. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's like I said.
Mutton is expensive too.
Well,
nowadays
no,
it probably wasn't then, but
No.
you go to the Indian restaurant.
But like
you
I said,
order the mutton,
they
you're
could
gonna
afford
pay.
these things.
Yeah.
But there were rumors that the milk was... Abby said that the milk was poisoned. Lizzie later states she thought the bread was being poisoned.
It would be ironic that somebody named Borden would have tainted milk.
Milk. So they're all coming off of this being ill.
Mm-hmm.
It's assumed that it's food poisoning.
Right.
But there's this moment at the local pharmacy, or drugstore, as it were.
Apothecary.
Yes. Pharmacy. Drugstore. That on the night of the 3rd, or like the afternoon of August 3rd, Eli Bentz, the pharmacist, or the person behind the counter at the drugstore, states, this is during the inquest. He states, Miss Borden came in asking for prussic acid for the edges of a sealskin cape to keep bugs from chewing it. Prussic acid.
That's a lot to ingest right there. A seal skin cape.
Yes.
Well,
so,
yeah. It keeps bugs off of it.
Yeah, prussic acid is much like cyanide.
No PETA back then.
Yeah, I was going to say.
No green peas.
Colorless, odorless, and tasteless.
Yeah, it's hydrogen cyanide?
Yes. Something.
Hydrogen cyanide.
And
I'm more shocked it's a sealskin cape. Are they Eskimos?
No, but if you had a sealskin cape.
I guess
and
there
you
is
wanted
no
to keep-
Greenpeace to protest to.
This was
no.
We're in sealskins.
I don't think Greenpeace was even thought of at that time.
This is when we're using animals to keep warm. And so apparently if you use the edges of prussic acid, you could keep bugs from chewing the hairs off of the edge of the any of your furs for that matter. She was told that a prescription was needed for that. Apparently, prussic acid is much like cyanide, and it was used in the Victorian age as the lady husband killer. So when they wanted to kill their husbands, they'd give them this, and then they couldn't. I mean, they would test stomachs and stuff for poison or what have you, but that's what this is known for.
Does it taste like scotch?
I didn't try to poison you.
Smell
I did
like
threaten you
vomit?
that earlier.
I'm
though.
safe.
She was told a prescription was needed for that. Here's the thing. Remember how I told you about all the Bordens in town?
Yes.
All he said was
125 families.
Miss Borden.
You'd say which?
He
Mrs.
never
Borden?
said her name was Lizzie. He never said that's who
Oh.
it was.
But was it?
So
Did they clarify? Do you know?
another customer that was in the store stated, in fact, was Lizzie.
Oh.
But then later on, his testimony is thrown out because they can't really prove that that's what happened. That's who he saw.
He was the town drunk in there getting
Correct.
vanilla.
Well, who
or
knows?
whatever.
Vanilla.
She was told
It has alcohol in it.
She was told a prescription was needed for that. She got upset. She stated she'd been able to get it before. She left upset. I will say that after the murder, Eli Bentz, the pharmacist, was taken to the Borden house after reporting what had happened to the police. And he stated they did not tell Lizzie he was there, and he did not see her. And he didn't see her. All that they let him do was hear her voice. And he claimed that is the voice that he heard earlier that asked him for prussic acid in the pharmacy. But it's not known if he actually saw her or spoke to her at the home. He just heard her voice.
Well, I mean, a lot of people sound alike.
And as unreliable as eyewitness accounts are visually,
You're going to do it by
recognize the voice.
oral, you know?
It is said that there's a chance that it was her and that she did need prussic acid for this Kate. Mm-hmm. But maybe she noticed they were very ill from food poisoning and this was an opportune time to poison her family.
Oh, heck yeah. They're already sick from food poisoning.
So it'd be a great time to
Give
poison
them a
your
little
family.
extra to push them over the edge.
Maybe. So this was something that happened prior to the murder. So this is, something that comes out during that this could be a reason. There was also supposedly a sting in Fall River at the time where a state inspector's wife was going to drugstores asking for substances that required prescriptions to determine if the drugstores were handing out meds inappropriately. And she was said to look like Lizzie Borden. But, and who knows, maybe her name was Borden too. There were so many friggin' Bordens. But also,
I just said her name was that, you know?
that's true. Also, on the 3rd, Uncle John Morse, I believe was his last name, because he was the brother of Lizzie's mother, biological mother.
That was my
Sarah,
next question.
that passed away.
He's the uncle. Why is he the uncle?
He's the Uncle John yes, he is her biological mother's brother.
Biomother's
Andrew
brother.
Borden's previous wife's
It's Andrew Borden's
Husband.
brother-in-law.
Got it. I'm down. I'm with you now. I'm tracking.
He was friendly with Andrew. He showed up with nothing, no clothes, no
naked?
bag. No, he had clothes on.
I
He didn't
divorced
have
your
change of
sister,
clothes.
but you're still my buddy. Is it something like that?
No, the sister died.
Yeah, but he had divorced her previous to that.
No,
didn't
he
he?
didn't.
no,
No,
she
she's
just
died.
Oh,
died.
okay. I'm
I
sorry.
said ex-brother-in-law because he's widowed.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, my bad.
Your
So
widowed is still always your brother.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Bros before hoes.
so apparently there was some rumor that he came around to do some business with Andrew. There's also statements that he came to visit family that was still in the area. He spent the night in the guest room. And little fun fact, he lived in Iowa. So he came by train to see them in Massachusetts. And he had been a butcher in the past. If that's any
Okay.
foreshadowing.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mm-hmm.
Do I need to put some like sound effects in there for right here so it'll It'll make it sound
Maybe.
spooky when you said that.
So we have a poison.
Okay, try to say butcher again so I can get it. He used to be a
butcher.
Okay.
So you have the person going to the drugstore, is reportedly Lizzie, asking for prussic acid. Uncle John comes in, who used to be a butcher, and stays in the guest room. Then Lizzie leaves the evening of the 3rd and goes to her friend around the corner, Alice Russell's house. And Alice reports during the inquest that when Lizzie came over, she seemed extremely disturbed. She was talking about a lot of crazy things. She had very vague statements and she was hysterical. She was talking about her parents being sick, saying she is having to sleep with one eye open due to her father having an enemy and she's uneasy at home. And stating something like, they will burn the house down around us. And is the milk poisoned? Is the bread poisoned? She reported she saw a man lurking around the house when she came home to let herself in the back door a few days prior. And she said, I feel like something is hanging over me that I cannot throw off. Father has so much trouble that I feel like someone might do something.
Is she trying to establish her own alibi?
So for those that think she's guilty, this is casting doubt on her and makes her family seem like a target for someone. Because if she, so there's maybe somebody was lurking around the house.
Maybe they were.
Maybe he had a bad business deal and somebody was poisoning them. Or maybe she's talking out of her head because she's Lulu. Or maybe she is giving herself an alibi. We'll see. She then returns from Alice's house and goes back home, and she enters through the front door, and Uncle John, Abby the stepmother, and Dad Andrew are sitting in the sitting room. She goes up the front stairs and doesn't speak to anyone and locks her bedroom door behind her.
This is after she left Alice's house.
Yes, on the night of the 3rd. This is the night of the 3rd. This is everybody's in the sitting room, so everybody's in this house at this time. So, I'm going to give you a quick, just visualize this house with me.
I got my eyes closed.
You go through the front door. You're in a sitting room. There is a stair. There's a set of stairs that you can go up. When you go up to the 2nd floor, immediately in front of you is the guest room.
Okay.
I believe it's to your right is Lizzie's room.
Okay.
To the left is the master.
Okay.
Which is Andrew and Abby's room.
I'm there.
So, in order to get to Emma's room, you cannot access it without going through Lizzie's bedroom.
Weird.
So you go through Lizzie's bedroom and...
Lizzie's over here.
Yep, Lizzie's on the right.
Okay.
And Emma's bedroom is like a quarter of the size of Lizzie's. It's like a dressing closet.
Why is hers so small?
Well, there was a rumor that they actually had switched rooms a couple of weeks prior to the murders.
Okay.
But who knows? But regardless, it's very interesting. So then the guest room. So apparently, no, the master can't be on the left. The master's over here. But there's a door that shares between Lizzie's room and the master. There's a door that you can go through to the master as well. It is nailed shut. You cannot access the master through Lizzie's room. The only way to access the master is through a back staircase in the kitchen.
Okay.
So the sitting room, the kitchen's on the right-hand side over here.
Okay.
This is a terrible layout.
I'm sorry.
No, you're doing a good
not
job
you.
of describing
The
it.
architect.
Yes. Well,
Whoever built
it's a
it.
shot.
The
It's
home
almost like a
builder.
shotgun when you see it. It is a long house.
Yeah, I've seen it.
So the kitchen's on the right-hand side, along with the dining room, and then you can go up the back stairs that accesses the master, and then I believe you go up another set of stairs to the attic, which is where
The maid.
yes,
Okay.
Bridget.
Mm-hmm.
So, the morning of August 4th, 1892, Abby and Andrew had breakfast around 6 a.m. is the thought. Uncle John, that was visiting, went to visit family in another part of town right after breakfast. Lizzie, who did not wake early and have breakfast with the family, she did not traditionally come down and eat breakfast with the family and did not get up
I
early.
wouldn't either that bloody early.
If I was that wealthy, I wouldn't get up that early.
Hell no.
She was not seen until after breakfast, when Bridget reported her coming down into the kitchen around 9 a.m., grabbed like a banana or something like that. And during this time, Abby was in the kitchen dusting. Bridget was told by Abby to go outside and wash the windows. Now, mind you, Bridget's been sick this morning and has been outside witnessed by neighbors as vomiting in the yard. But Abby's like, go wash the windows. She takes all of her cleaning supplies and goes outside to start washing the outside windows.
Mm-hmm.
Abby says she is going to go tidy the guest room that Uncle John has slept in the previous night. This is, remember, it goes up the front stairs and it's right directly in front of you is the guest room.
Well, how cool of her.
Yes.
No, I mean, because here you got this stupid wealthy person and, okay, I'm going to send the maid outside to wash the windows. But while she's out there, I know she's having a rough day. I'm going to take care of, she may have normally done that anyway, but I'm going to take care of Uncle John's bedroom.
They said that she was very neat, that she liked to keep those. Also, it's hot as heck outside, so maybe there's some, I don't know, probably hot inside too.
Probably
being
worse
outside.
inside.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just
I understand
saying
what you're saying.
cool.
No air
Yeah.
conditioning.
So she is said to go up to the guest room around 9:30, and at this time, Bridget, who's outside, sees through the window that Lizzie is using a small ironing board at the dining room table to iron handkerchiefs. She literally had a little tiny, and she's heating up the iron to iron her handkerchiefs. That's what Bridget
like one of those
sees.
little bitty short ones that you see in sometimes in motels.
Yes.
Hotels have them.
Yeah, they're small.
Okay.
If you iron handkerchiefs, you just gotta sneeze it in. So it just
This
matters
is
if you're right.
around, so 9:30 is a time that
This is
around,
Victorian age. We iron our handkerchiefs.
this is around the time that Abby goes upstairs. This is also around the time that Abby's reported to have been murdered.
When was this? What time?
9:30 in the morning.
Okay.
At this time, Andrew has left to do his rounds. He leaves around 9 a.m. every morning.
Didn't John spend the night before?
John spent the night before, but he left right after breakfast to go visit family in town.
Okay.
Emma is not here. She is visiting friends.
Okay.
And so the only people here inside the house reported are
Abby, Lizzie, and
Bridget, who's outside washing the windows.
Okay.
Okay. Abby goes upstairs to tidy up the guest room, and this is around the time that she's reported to have died. Later. They think she died around 9:30 in the morning.
While Bridget's outside throwing up and everybody sees her throwing up.
Oh, she's outside washing the windows. She's done throwing up.
Oh, she's
Yes.
done through. Okay, she's through throwing up, but she's outside washing the windows.
And she reports seeing Lizzie at the dining room ironing handkerchiefs.
Lizzie's inside ironing handkerchiefs.
Yep.
And Abby's upstairs fixing John's room in the guest room.
Tidying up the guest room. Yep.
And this is when Abby died.
Yes.
So that doesn't leave a whole lot of people that could have done it,
Nope.
in my mind.
I mean, unless somebody came in, I guess. Bridget then comes inside to clean the inside of the windows, and Lizzie is not seen. She doesn't see Lindsay when she comes inside. That doesn't mean she doesn't see her.
Right.
She says
She just
she's not
doesn't see
down
her.
here. I don't.
Okay.
I
I don't
didn't
know
see
where
her.
she's at.
Andrew came home around 10:45 for lunch. Found the bolt thrown on the front door, so he could not enter the door. He had a master key, but he left it on the mantle of the fireplace all the time. This
That's where I
was
leave
kind of
mine.
weird.
That's where I leave my master key.
Bridget reports she went to open the door, and when she did, she heard Lizzie giggle from the top of the stairs behind her. Because Bridget goes to let Andrew in and says a cuss word in Gaelic, Lizzie hears her and giggles. But Bridget reports she's at the top of the stairs.
This is at 10:45.
Yep.
Abby's already dead.
Yep.
Lizzie's upstairs
Yep.
because that's where Bridget hears her.
Bridget says she's at the top of the stairs upstairs. Now, if that's the case, Lizzie could have seen Abby.
So she's in that room cleaning it up. Was the door open or did she close the door behind her?
The door is open.
Oh, so the door's open.
They find that the door is open later, yes. The door is open. As far as we know, the door is open.
Can you see?
When you come to the 7th stair of the staircase, your eyes are parallel with the ground on the 2nd floor. And you can see into the guest room.
So I can see the guest room, which will be over here.
The
'cause
floor of
master's
the
over
guest
here.
room. Mm-hmm.
So she would have seen Abby.
Yep. Well, she's facing the front door right now, so her back is to the guest room.
Okay.
So she hears her giggle, which is feet away from the guest room where Abby is laying dead at this moment. Because she's already dead at 10:45.
Okay, you could smell the blood at that point.
Well, as gruesome as this was, yes, you could.
No, I mean, when there's a lot of blood, you smell it. It's that
smells
coppery
like
smell.
It's iron.
Yeah.
It's a ferrous odor.
Yeah, I always equate it to copper. I can taste it when I smell it.
It's like
That
that iron thing. Like,
yeah, it's a metallic.
like calf liver or something. Yeah.
That metallic taste that you get in your mouth.
Or chicken livers.
So the report is that Lizzie comes down the stairs. Andrew is still ill. He's still looking kind of pale. People reported that morning that he did not look well. And he wants to come.
Because he's getting poisoned.
Not as bad as he's going to look.
Well, he wants to take a nap. So Lizzie reportedly helps Andrew into the house, and he lays down on the couch in the front room to nap. She states she takes his boots off and helps him, and he's laying at an angle against the pillow.
Well, he's wearing his boots in this crime scene photo.
Yes, he is. She reports he took his shoes, but there's a whole lot of mess that goes on. So Andrew supposedly asked Lizzie where Abby was at this time. Bridget heard Lizzie tell Andrew Abby had received a note from a sick friend and was off visiting the sick friend. That is what Bridget recalls Lizzie telling Andrew about where her stepmother Abby was. That she had left.
Andrew asks, "Hey, where's Abby?"
Lizzie says
she went to visit some sick
she got
friend.
a note. She got a telegram that she has a friend that's sick and she left to go visit the sick friend.
But Bridget doesn't know this. Bridget didn't
know this. Bridget was outside. So
okay.
Bridget hears her say this though. So she doesn't know. She didn't see Abby go upstairs. She just knew that Abby said that's where she was going, and then she went outside to wash windows.
She knew that's where Lizzie told her that her mom went, right?
No, Abby said it.
Oh,
Abby told her after she told her to go wash the windows. She said she was going to go upstairs to tidy up the guest room.
Right, but now it's coming up that
Lizzie said she got a telegram.
Which is nothing like I'm going upstairs to...
But wouldn't Bridget have seen the telegram delivery
You would think.
person?
You would think, unless she's, I guess, around the back
She's
of the
outside
house.
doing windows.
Unless she's got like a receiver inside the house.
Well, this note was never found. Nobody came and reported they delivered this note to the house.
So what was the U.S. telegraph, U.S. telephone telegraph?
They had the little thing where you go...
Oh, I know that.
And then they come out on that ticker tape, you know.
I know. What I'm saying is, wasn't that the company U.S. Telephone and Telegraph at that time? I think it was.
But there would be a guy with the little sleeves, and the little thing would come and deliver it to the house.
Yeah.
So at this time, Lizzie has helped Andrew lay down on the on the couch.
And took his boots off.
And he's laying down on the couch to take a nap in the front room. Mm-hmm. Bridget goes upstairs to lay down in her third floor room because she feels poorly. She's been vomiting this morning.
Vomiting all morning, right.
And she goes upstairs to lay down around 11 o'clock. This is around 11 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
So 15 minutes after Andrew gets home.
Yes, this is around 11 that this happens. Lizzie, now, what she does next, Lizzie changed her story several times about what she did next. One, she said at one point, at first she continued to iron when her dad came home. Mm-hmm. Remember, she was ironing the handkerchiefs.
In the dining room.
Yes, dining room. Sorry, yes.
I'm keeping up.
Then she said she was in the barn.
What barn?
The barn in the back of the house.
I didn't know they had a barn.
They went out. Pat, if you went outside the kitchen, there was a barn. Everybody had a barn.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a barn.
Of course. Yeah.
She was looking for a weight to add to a fishing line for a fishing
shed.
trip. This was
what?
A
she
A she shed.
Then she said she was in the barn looking for a weight to add to a fishing line for a fishing trip they were going on. She also said later she was looking...
fishing trip?
There's a fishing trip later.
Wouldn't you just have that in your tackle box?
Yeah,
that's where I get my weights.
Then she also... Another time she said she was looking for a piece of lead to repair a screen.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I guess they repaired
and then
their
there's
own
also...
screens
She also then said that she was outside picking pears.
So what the hell was she doing?
Pears of what?
What do you mean?
Fruit.
She said all these things?
These are the 4 things that she said she did.
I'm picking pears. I'm doing handkerchiefs. I'm getting
looking for a fish. What, a bobber?
No, not a bobber.
Oh, wait. Yeah, one of those little lead weights.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny
Venture
because she
around.
says at one point she's inside doing handkerchiefs, right? And then all of a sudden, all of these other 3 things, she's outside. She's
Is
outside.
She psychotic? She doesn't remember.
The main story that I heard was that she did 2 of these things. She went outside to the barn to look for a fishing weight.
Piece of lead.
Finds these pears and decides she wants to eat them. So she takes 2 pears
she's ADD.
down. And then she sits outside in the barn and eats the pears. And apparently somebody asked her why it took her like
All this time.
they said 10 to 20 minutes elapsed from the time that she supposedly was outside till she came back inside till Andrew was found. From the time that Bridget saw her in there till the time he was found.
Okay.
They said, why did it take you 15 minutes to eat 2 pears? And she said, I've never done anything in 1 minute.
Well, it's 2 pairs, so it's 4.
It's 2 pears. No. Pear.
I know. It's the most boring fruit there is.
So
not a
I
fan.
like
Not a fan
pears.
of pears.
So 10
Especially
to
I love
20.
pears.
those canned pears just taste like nothing.
Not canned, fresh, off the tree. That's my favorite.
This is 1892. They are picking them straight up off this.
Heck yeah, man.
So 10 to 20 minutes elapses, like I said, and so then she said why she came back in the house. There were 2 different stories why she came back in the house. At one point she said, because I just came back into the house. There's another time she said that she heard a scraping sound or a groan and goes back into the home through the kitchen. And reportedly checks on her father through the door in the dining room. So she comes through the kitchen into the dining room, which is it butts up right next to the sitting room. Mm-hmm. Like when you're seeing these pictures of him, there's like a doorway.
Right.
That's the dining room. She says she checks on her father through the door in the dining room, which would have placed her looking directly at his face. Mm-hmm. Maybe the dining room's in the back.
Yeah.
This is where the killer presumably stood based on blood splatter and the wound patterns. They would have come through the dining room and
Where Lizzie was standing.
where Lizzie reports that she found her father. Yes. She then yells up to Bridget, come down quick. Someone has hurt father. Other
Not
report,
killed, not dead, not beat
other
his
reports,
brains in.
other reports say she said someone has killed father. Bridget's only been up there a hot minute.
Well, I could see that. I could see her getting confused in it. Even Bridget relaying this. I don't remember. Did she say killed? Did she say murdered or whatever? But
Well, they said the wounds were still bleeding when the doctors arrived 10 minutes later. After they were
Still
summoned.
bleeding?
They were
But he
still
was still
actively
alive.
bleeding.
That's horrible because I've seen the pictures of his head and it is
Really? 'Cause
freaking.
I can't see shit. I mean, anything in this. This is a terrible
Dude.
crime scene photo. I can't see. I mean, it's black and white, so you can't see the blood.
Do you see the pillow? That's the side of his face.
Yeah, so when you look at it,
It's a terrible photograph. I can't see.
well, I'm sure they
anything.
didn't pull out their Android. And
Well, they
take a
could have got a
picture.
little closer.
But the picture, if you look at the pictures, you can see the whole. I think it's. Is it
The
right, or
right
left?
side is the one
it
that's
right?
not.
And the stepmother, you can't even see where her head's
The whole
butchered. All you
right
see
side
is
of his
her-
head is demolished.
Oh, it's the
It
it's
is.
the left side
It
of his
is the
head.
left, yeah,
But I'm
okay,
saying
I
the
was
right
thinking
side
that.
is what you can see against the
Yeah,
pillow.
but the left side of his head is demolished. It is hamburger meat, man. I mean, somebody wailed on this bastard.
They're saying it's still bleeding, but I don't necessarily think he's alive.
It's probably
I-
just dripping.
I think it's dripping.
Okay,
It's
dripping,
not-
I guess.
Yes.
and spreading.
Bleeding?
But
not-
in the reports,
not
they're
like-
saying bleeding.
Yeah,
but I'm
it's not
saying
bleeding.
it's
This
no.
dude's dead.
Yeah, the dude is way dead.
Yeah, he's
They
dead. By
and
then.
they said that they are pretty sure he was asleep at the time he was hit because his eyelid was cut in two, perfectly in two. So it was
his eyes
closed.
were closed.
His eyes were closed.
He's wearing his
Thank
boots,
God.
though.
He
Can you
is
imagine-
wearing his boots. Yes.
Can you imagine that coming? Can you imagine seeing that coming?
No.
Oh, that's what
Also-
I'm saying.
Well, if you
If
see
the
it coming,
first
you
blow
would have
didn't kill him-
defensive wounds from trying to stop it.
And that was
Yeah,
the other
but
reason
he
why they
wouldn't
thought he was
stop.
asleep. So the doctor across the street is making house calls because Bridget goes across. So Lizzie sends Bridget across the street. He's out making house calls. So then she sends Bridget to get Alice Russell, her friend, around the corner. The friend that she went hysterical with last night. Supposedly there was an Irish doctor right next door, but supposedly Lizzie did not send Bridget there because he was an immigrant.
See, always picking on the Irish.
Even though Bridget's Irish.
Yeah, but she's hired help. They're not going to actually
Don't bring the Irish doctor over.
Oh, I know, right?
That's racist.
So supposedly in the time between she tells Bridget to go get Alice and the doctors arrive, Lizzie is witnessed by the next door neighbor by the name of Adelaide Churchill. That Lizzie is standing in the screen door and the neighbor came home from shopping and asked Lizzie if she was okay. And Lizzie responded, "Oh, Miss Churchill, do come over. Someone has killed father."
Hey, do come over. Someone has killed father.
Oh, this is like an episode of Downton Abbey or something. I hate this Victorian stuff.
This is hilarious.
Boring period.
Oh, someone has come in and bashed father's brains out. They're all over the sofa. Do come over.
Well, and that's the thing. But like I said before, she's different.
I'm going to say she is on the freaking spectrum.
She is not emotive.
Yeah, that's the thing. She does not respond as what we would consider, quote unquote, normal.
And yes,
normally.
Alice reported her being hysterical the night before, but in hysterics in what way? Because there's reports later that Bridget is literally hysterical, acting a mess.
She's Irish.
But why would you send for... I mean, I guess you need a doctor just to make sure he's... But you also...
Well, maybe he's not dead.
Nobody
maybe
says...
just got his brains bashed out and he's
call
not
the
dead.
local constabulary, please.
Well, they said that...
Call the police or sheriff.
She said that was
someone called the police.
She said it was the first thing that came to mind, though, was to get a doctor. You
right,
see,
of course,
I mean... So apparently...
Doctor walks in like...
So Miss Churchill...
Can't do anything about this.
Doesn't go... They said, please, do come over. Someone's killed father. Adelaide Churchill goes to find help and is running across the street. And a news dealer or someone with a newspaper sees her running and asks her what's wrong. He then calls the police, and the police report getting the call at 11:15 about the murder.
So the little newspaper boy or whatever he was.
The news dealer is what they called him.
Extra newspapers for sale.
Now, apparently they were not told it was a murder. The police come at 11:20, and they were not sure what they would find, as they were told it was a domestic disturbance.
That's what I heard. Domestic disturbance.
They were told it was a domestic disturbance because this news dealer is the one that apparently called the police. I don't know what he called on, but apparently that's what he called, and he just knows that this woman is running across the yard.
They're literally playing or a game of telephone where, by the time it gets to the police station, it's not a murder anymore. It's just, there's a domestic disturbance. You might want to go check that out if you get time,
Enough has gone on, though, that there's enough people that have heard about it that onlookers and strangers are already coming and stopping at the house to look in on what had happened.
Grab a piece of Andrew's skull, right? Just like...
Oh, not... like Velisca?
Velisca.
Ugh.
At this point, no one's talking about Abby. No one's asked about Abby. And when they did ask where she was, Lizzie gave a report at this time that she received a note that someone was sick and she went to tend to them. She says that again to the police.
So Lizzie thinks that she's gone to her friend's house.
That's what Lizzie says has happened.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Lizzie reports that Abby received a note that someone was sick and she went to tend to them when she was going out to the market. Remember, I told you they shop daily for food.
Right.
No note was ever found, and no one reported ever writing a note or delivering a note. Again, this was never supposedly happened. When they found her, she was dressed in house clothes, not going out clothes. So likely this whole note thing was not a thing because they had different dress.
Bullshit.
What they wore to clean the house in was not what they wore to go to church,
right.
Not what they wore to go to the market, not what they wore.
The affluent.
You could not leave the house in your church in your house clothes.
I get that. I mean, I wouldn't leave. I mean, my house clothes like a sleeveless T-shirt, cut off sweatpants, shorts, and flip flops.
We all have a sense of decorum.
Yeah, and I'm not leaving the house without sleeves at least.
Unless you go to Walmart at midnight and then it's sleep pants.
I do not leave the house without sleeves. That's just trashy. Or unless you're going to the gym, or that's different. You're at your neighbor's driveway.
When you came over, I was sleeveless.
Y'all were hanging out in the front of your house, in front of a house. You weren't at the store.
That's true. Wasn't like I was at the bank making a deposit.
You weren't. Yeah, you weren't.
I think it's
having a business meeting or
no,
shopping or pet
No.
peeve of-
So there's different reports of what happened next. There's a report that police asked Lizzie and Bridget to go upstairs and get a sheet to cover Andrew, to cover him up. There's also, there's a report that they had gone up the back stairs.
cover him up.
To cover him up. Because there were people staring at him.
Doesn't that degrade evidence?
They don't care.
They're
back
not caring
then.
about that right now.
Oh, okay.
No,
They just want to cover him up.
No, I'm just
No,
saying.
at this time, it was about the propriety of it. Like you got to be.
It wasn't proper to have
Right.
somebody with their brains
Right.
bashed out on the sofa.
Well,
Let's cover him up. So no one
women
sees
shouldn't have to see this. Let's cover this up. I mean, let's be honest.
it. Yeah, I get you. You're right.
No, but let's be honest with this. Can you imagine the flies already?
Oh yeah, because it's hot.
It's
what,
hot. There's
August?
no air conditioning.
Yeah,
The windows are open. Can you imagine the amount of flies already?
And let's say he probably defecated himself when his
I'm sure.
brain
I'm sure.
was bashed in and his heart stopped.
Yeah. There's two reports. Police asked Lizzie and Bridget to go upstairs and get a sheet to cover Andrew. There's another that they went up the back stairs. There's another report that Lizzie reportedly instructed Bridget and the police to go up the front stairs as people had already gone up the back stairs to get a sheet to cover Andrew.
So the back stair goes all the way to Bridget's room or the master?
Master. And then Bridget.
Okay, got you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and Bridget.
Kitchen goes up to the master.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. The back stairs.
Front stairs go to the guest room.
And from what I can gather, Bridget can go up the back as well to go. I want to say there's two because they said that she can go up the back to go to her room. When Bridget goes up the front stairs, she gets to the 7th stair and she can see that there's somebody on the ground. She walks into the guest room and she's the first one to find Abby. Face down on the floor, half underneath the bed. But in the pictures,
it looks like she slumped over a piece of furniture.
Yeah, they have moved her. And a lot of that was propriety again, because you're not supposed to have your ankles shown, so they pulled up a blanket over to cover her.
Your head's bashed in, but let's worry about whether your ankles are showing.
I actually read
Ridiculous.
I've read some stuff on her, and one of the things they said, because the way it looks is she's like down on her knees or something and laid forward.
So it looks like.
But
She
what it
appears
is,
to
they
be on-
actually pushed her petticoats.
She appears to be on her knees in the crime scene photos, but actually it is the petticoats that cause it to appear as if she's on her knees.
Yeah.
The cops pulled her dress down to cover her legs, which caused the bunching. The first blow was to the front of her head, and all of the rest of the blows were to the back of her head. So we don't know how she got. Like, the idea was...
I saw the autopsy pictures, and it's just like everywhere, all over the back of her
they
head.
hit her in the front. They said that they hit her like in the side of the head, so she would have fallen on her face. Mm-hmm. And then they hit her in the back. So they said that I think her eye sockets were broken and her nose as well during the autopsy because she fell. Mm-hmm. Also, here's the thing. Abby weighed 200 pounds plus.
Big old girl.
You think you're not going to hear her fall? When Abby claims she's gone, that she hasn't... No, not Abby. Lizzie.
Where am I?
She's in the guest room, which is above the dining room kitchen.
Where I'm ironing handkerchiefs?
Theoretically, yes. Yes, I believe so.
I'm ironing handkerchiefs, and someone that weighs 200 pounds...
In a house built in like 1860.
Right there.
Let's see. Me or Mike hit the floor.
Yeah.
We're going to make a little bit of a thud.
Dude, we got ours is tile throughout, and if we fell on this floor, you'd hear us all the way to the other side of the house. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. And she's saying she didn't hear anything.
Yeah. She said if she had fallen, you would have heard it because Abby was over 200 pounds, and Lizzie said she did not hear a sound. Because they said that they did a test later and that there were parts of the house that shook.
I bet.
When something fell that was that heavy.
Looks like she's wearing 200 pounds of just clothes.
Probably.
She was, but it's like we've talked about before. In this age, the healthier and the thicker you were,
Yes, it meant you had money for
it meant
food.
you had
That's right.
money for
Yeah.
food. So
Absolutely.
it was attractive to be heavier.
Correct.
Especially which is Mr. Borden, not a heavy man, so he looks like he might be a poor man. But people like President Grover Cleveland is a big rotund man. He's like, oh, it's very successful. Look how much money he has for food. It's the opposite of now, where people are big because it's because of cheap processed food, and rich people have access to the good, clean, nice food. So they're usually
and
not
the gym
fat.
and the trainer
And the gym and the
yeah.
trader
and
the personal.
So
Ozempic.
I think this is a good
The
place.
Ozempic.
I think this is a good place to stop.
Okay.
We have gotten to
So we got them murdered.
We
They're
got
dead.
some murdered folks
Okay.
with their heads bashed in. However, what I can tell you is, unlike the doggerel, it's not with an axe; it's with a hatchet.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
and it's not her mother, technically.
It's her
stepmother.
A hatchet is a small axe.
And technically.
And we'll talk about how many whacks whenever we talk about the autopsy later.
Oh,
But I'm just going based off
Come
the
on, John. I know
doggerel,
you got
you
something.
8-year-old
I know you got something for wax.
No, I mean, this is just Wikipedia, so I'm sure there are better photographs where you can actually see, because you can't really see shit in these photos on Wikipedia. They just look like this is the head part.
So
I'll
we're
show
gonna
you.
okay. So my understanding is that we're gonna stop here and we're gonna continue this on another episode.
The next episode will be how
We'll find out how many whacks.
We're gonna find out the
It's
details of the
14
autopsy
heavy, I think.
when the police come to investigate. How maybe they didn't do a great investigation,
They never did back then.
and then the inquest, the grand jury, the trial, and then what happened after.
Cool. I'm excited. I want to know because I know what I've read, and I know you've dug a lot deeper into this than what I ever have. I just did it out of
Quite a lot.
pure curiosity. I wasn't trying to write a show for it. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this so far. If you like this video, if you're watching on YouTube, it's at 3B Paranormal Spirits. Reach down there and hit that subscribe button. It's going to be right about here. And matter of fact, if you look just below John's left shoulder, in between his left shoulder and not his boob, but his left elbow, probably there's a little white icon. That's our logo. It looks like this, except it's the negative version of it. And you see his massive guns over there. He's flexing. There's a little white spot over there. Just hover over that, and you can click that, and you can subscribe to our channel. If you want to, if you're listening on a podcast, you can do that. If you're not listening on a podcast and you want to listen on a podcast, we are Paranormal-Spirits on a podcast. You can catch us at Spotify. You can do it on Amazon, Audible, Apple, just anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. You can listen to us there. We also have Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and they are all paranormal_dash spelled out DASH _ spirits. I'm going to put it right there in the video so that you can see it. That'll be a post production. And if you want to see our website itself, you can go to paranormal-spirits.com. You can go there and you can pick up boozies, koozies. You can pick up dad caps. You can pick up trucker caps. You can pick up water bottles. We got about like 500 items out there that you can pick and choose
You got
from.
water bottles?
Yeah, we got water bottles.
No, I didn't.
They're too expensive. I don't buy them from me. No, I'm kidding. Anyway, make sure that you check us out. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know I have. And we'll catch you guys later.
Bye.
Peace. Bye-bye.
Night, night.